Hello and welcome to the 183rd episode of the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm the professor, Matt Perkins. And a slot seam across the Harpeth River from me here in the Music City, it's our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton.
What's up, boys? It's good to be here. I survived on Saturday, believe it or not. And, let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, Coach, we're here for you if you need to talk it out. But we can't get it started without the third amigo in the second city, a man who knows that differences of opinion should be tolerated, but not when they're too different, because then he becomes a submersive mother. It's our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook.
I think I've got some subversive opinions on the quote-unquote playoff committee.
Well, let's hop right into the playoff. Seriously, no one?
Playoffs? I said it. There you go.
I only do it when the playoffs
Playoffs.
just a full champion.
Oh, well then. The playoff selections are in, as are the rest of the bowl selections. We will be doing a whole host of bowl preview shows in the weeks to come leading up to the most wonderful time of the year. But for the time being, let's talk about the 4 teams that the committee has selected to partake in the college football playoff. We will start at number 1 with Alabama. Crimson Tide had a furious comeback, scoring the last 21 points of the game in Atlanta, Georgia, to beat your Dogs, Coach, 35-28. The story coming out of the game is Jalen Hurts. So, Coach, we'll get to the misery of your Dogs here in a second, but you do have to admit it is kind of a pretty cool redemption story for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, no, it's a very good redemption story. If it wasn't against Georgia, I would be extremely happy about it. But let's just say that, Will, I'm not. I would have loved for it to be almost a good redemption story that would have fallen just short. But, you know, what can you do? A great story for him. He hung around. He showed what it's like to put the team first. Now, I don't think should be every situation. I think every situation should be kind of handled individually. But I thought he handled it the best way he could for him.
All right. Josh, I'm interested in your take of the game because I don't want to be cliche, but it kind of was a tale of two halves.
Yeah, it was. It just comes down to, in my opinion, terrible special teams. Hot Rod, he missed a field goal. Those 3 points could have come up big. There was a infamous fake punt, if I'm not mistaken, Coach, that it didn't go too well.
Well, let's talk about that. We love some questions. Calls here. We got to get into it right now.
Special teams, poor decisions, missed kick. I know that pressure-packed field goal, and we try our best not to just target one kid on this show, but it's a really good kicker, and it was a 30-yarder. He wants to be kicking on Sundays. He missed a 30-yarder in a dome.
I know. That's oh my God. As soon as it went off his foot, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. He pulled it to the left, and that's very uncharacteristic of Hot Rod. I just think he wilted under the pressure, and I don't know where to start on the fake punt call. I don't know
Coach,
why you don't.
Here's my thing about it. So it's 4th and 11. It's not like it's 4th and 4. Secondly, it's pretty obvious when you trot the 6'4", 230-pound guy wearing number 1 on his jersey out there. Like, come on. Like that's as you can't telegraph that anymore.
Yeah, and also the field position too.
You're at midfield.
Yeah, if it had been like at the 40, you're kind of thinking, okay, a touchback nets us 20 yards, kick of 57, we're not making that. Okay, fine, drop your best 11-yard play. But from the 50?
But if you're doing that, you just go with Jake Fromm, who'd been on fire.
Yeah, I mean, if you have no intention on punting the ball, which, I mean, if you just trot your offense out there and go for it on fourth down, I guess I could defend that a lot better than I can that stupid fake punt that they try to do. But it irritates me because A, you're going for a quick snap fake. You don't get a quick snap. B, your quarterback completely poops down his leg as soon as he gets the ball. There was a couple of open receivers if he doesn't poop down his leg, but none of that should have happened because as soon as Kirby realized that, their entire defense is on the field, maybe I should just call timeout, punt this thing, and let's make Jalen Hurts earn his freaking Sports Center headlines and all.
They were lined up in a 3-4 to defend the punt. They weren't even lined up in a punt return formation.
And, Coach, I don't think I even would have burned a timeout. I would have just eaten a 5-yard penalty on delay again.
Yeah, anything.
I mean, what's 5 yards at that point? It's nothing.
Yeah.
Or
it's actually probably, you know what? It's probably better to punt from your own 45 than from the 50. You have a less likely chance of kicking a touchback.
Or I would have even accepted Justin Fields just quick kicking it when he realized he didn't have anything. Just punt it.
Do something.
I would have accepted that. I mean, I don't. I mean, I get the rationale, but it all goes out the window when there's when the look you want is definitely not there.
Also, just throwing this out there. Justin Fields had not attempted a pass yet in the game. That was his first pass attempt.
No, it wasn't. He attempted one.
I'm sorry. He was 0 for 1 before that.
That changes everything.
No. He didn't. He never threw it. He dropped back and was looking, and then had to tuck it and run.
Good grief.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were...
I guess that makes it worse.
I mean, I suppose if you had a fake that you absolutely loved, someone in your playbook, and you thought you saw something on tape that you could bust Alabama for, their previous 2 punts were pretty good situations. A 4th and 4 and a 4th and 2. But why the 4th and 11 one?
I don't know. I mean, there's got to be different scenarios where you try to. There was plenty of opportunities to steal. What am I trying to say here?
This was Kirby Smart being Kirby dumb.
Yeah. Here's the situation. Kirby saw the red helmets, flashed back for a second, thought he was at Rutgers for whatever reason, and said, you know what, we're Rutgers, we need to fake this punt because we're not going to win anyway. And then he forgot that he was at Georgia and that they dominated the game up until that point.
They outgained Alabama. They were more, they converted the same amount of third downs. In many ways, they were the better team. This is my favorite and also the most tragic stat of both this game and last year's national title game, Coach. Yeah. In between those games, there have been 290 plays run between the two teams. Yeah. The Crimson Tide have led for 9 of those snaps.
Yeah. The more stats you throw, just the more I just shake my head and say, "Come on, you got to pull through and win one of those. You've got to." The offense went conservative in the second half. They couldn't adjust. I wouldn't say they went conservative, but they couldn't adjust. They couldn't figure out. Bama was starting to increase their blitz packages. They were in Fromm's face. They were starting to lock down the receivers, and they couldn't get the ball out. They couldn't. It seemed like the best thing to happen to Bama to kill our rhythm was halftime. and we just couldn't make any adjustments. We couldn't get back in a rhythm.
Even before halftime, though, I thought, that every time that Justin Fields stepped on the field in the second quarter, it completely ruined the rhythm of Georgia's offense.
Yeah.
And I think that Jake Fromm looked so good in this game. Jake Fromm looked better than any quarterback in the country has against Alabama this year.
Right.
Just let him go out there and do his thing.
Uh-huh.
That was frustrating to me. I think Kirby made a lot of questionable coaching decisions. And I think that it was pretty evident early on that the game was a little too big and a little too fast for Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. And so then why you're running your fake punt for him in the moment when you've seen he's been on the field for enough snaps that you've seen that he's not quite there. He's an amazing player. He's going to go on to be a phenomenal quarterback. In this game, he was, for one reason or another, just not quite in sync with the rest of the offense. So what on earth are you doing?
Losing the game.
Yeah.
Losing the game. It's what you are doing. So, Josh, I want to flip this forward. We're talking about the playoff here. Is Georgia one of the 4 best teams in the country?
It doesn't matter because nothing matters in college football because our committee is full of crap.
Okay. Well, I think, Josh, though, in the abstract, if I can reel you back in just for a second, that you will admit that Alabama is one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Yeah.
Is Clemson one of the 4 best teams in the country?
Yes.
Well, they play in an absolutely dreadful conference, so by that rationale, they should not be in the playoffs.
They are.
Yeah, but Coach, the ACC's terrible.
Yeah, but they dominated everybody they played pretty much.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
I think Clemson.
I can think of a team that's dominated 2 years worth of teams.
Well, yeah, there's no question they should be in.
Well, speaking of dominance, they forced Pitt's quarterback Kenny Pickett into this lovely stat line: 4 for 16 for 8 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. That is good for 0.5 yards per pass attempt.
Some Rutgers numbers.
Arthur Sitkowski wishes he had those numbers.
Oof.
Yeah, that was just another dominant performance. Clemson seemed to be kind of lulled to sleep there a little bit early on. You're, going into half. It looks like it's going to be 21-10 going into halftime. And Kenny Pickett throws an interception. They return it with inside the Pitt 10. Next play, ball's in the end zone. All of a sudden, it's 28-10 at halftime, and Clemson wins going away. Josh, I don't really feel like I learned a whole lot about, quite frankly, either team in this.
No, and look, Pittsburgh should be applauded along with Northwestern. They won the games they needed to win. Are they the best team from the division? No, I think so.
Maybe. Who else is better in the Atlantic?
Who else is better? Well, I'll throw some names at you.
Okay. Duke? Are you going to give me Duke?
I am going to give you Duke. Duke won 2.
Are you going to give me Georgia Tech?
Duke won 2 big non-conference games. They beat Baylor and Northwestern. I think Duke would have been better. I think a healthy Virginia Tech is better.
Okay.
I think a Richtless Miami is better. And
next thing I know, you're going to tell me that the Hatman's team is better.
No, but I will say I think Virginia's defense could have at least made it interesting. But Pittsburgh won the games they had to.
If we could put Virginia's defense with Duke's offense, we might get a team that could stay within 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay.
But yeah,
so Clemson is in the same division as the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best teams in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could pretty much say that Syracuse, North Carolina State, and Boston College are all better than any team from the Coastal.
Yeah.
So,
I will say this, though. Central Florida put up more points on division champion Pittsburgh than Clemson did.
Or Notre Dame did.
Yeah.
Notre Dame struggled with Pitt.
Yep, just saying.
Oh, they struggled mightily with Pitt.
Yep, just saying.
They probably should have lost.
Yeah, let's not talk about this game. Let's move on.
Yeah, this game tells us less than nothing. Okay. Notre Dame, yeah, they're in.
Was it the worst game of the weekend? And I'm acknowledging that Iowa State played Drake.
Are you acknowledging the
Marshall?
Are you acknowledging the Pac-12 title game?
Hey,
We'll get there.
That at least had some fun controversy at the end.
Well, yeah, Pac-12 refs. What else do you expect? Anyway, our number 4 team, according to the committee, not according to this podcast, Oklahoma Sooners. One thing you can say about this team, they have beat every team on their schedule.
They have.
They win 39-27 thanks to a safety, basically, that sort of opened up the game for the Sooners there in the fourth quarter, I should say. Oklahoma's going to the playoff. They win 39-27, but not really all that impressed with them still, Coach. They played defense sort of for the first time this year, but still.
Yeah, they did. Kyler Murray.
But it's not like Texas has it's not like Texas has a great offense.
They don't. Really
Sam Ehlinger. That's their offense. Their offense is Sam Ehlinger.
Texas got a New Year's Day bowl bid because they played a close game with Oklahoma.
And because their name is Texas.
And because their name is Texas. And guess who gets to play them in the Sugar Bowl? We do.
No, but you know what, Coach? You're going to wipe the floor with them.
I know, and I don't want to see that. I want to actually, I wanted to play Ohio State, truthfully.
That would have been fun. That would have
play.
Actually been a really fun game.
I was hoping they would say, you know what, screw everything. Let's battle out and see who truly is the fourth best team, and let's see if Georgia can beat Ohio State.
That was obviously going to happen though with the Rose Bowl and there.
No, it wasn't. I wish it would have, but it
I wanted to play Iowa State in the bowl game.
Hey man, listen, Wisconsin's going to the Pinstripe Bowl.
That's a favorable matchup. Miami's garbage, and it's in New York City.
Hey, listen, nothing like playing the U in back-to-back bowl years.
Miami's not going to show up for that.
It's in New York in late December. I'd be surprised if N'Keal Harry, what am I saying? N'Kosi Perry, wrong N apostrophe first name. I'd be surprised if N'Kosi Perry can even throw the ball 10 yards.
If I was Mark Richt, I'd take a sick day.
Mark Richt has taken a sick year. He hasn't shown up yet.
He hasn't shown up since.
He hasn't shown up since last year's Orange Bowl.
Just a reminder to our listeners: this is our Big 12 title game recap.
Hey, man, listen, we're just going where it takes us. We're on the train tonight.
Yeah,
I've had the Purdue Boilermaker Express go by my house twice in the last half hour.
Well done.
So yeah, Oklahoma's going to the playoff.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them more later. Quite frankly, I don't want to talk about them. I want to talk about UCF. I
was just gonna say the one thing from that Big 12 title game. Texas has improved. Yeah, we'll give them some credit for that. They finally have a quarterback, but they are still a flawed team, and they're not a program yet that can absorb 13 penalties for 128 yards and expect to win.
Heck, Alabama can't even do that.
Alabama might.
Okay, Alabama maybe. Clemson against that ACC schedule, definitely. Okay, so, Coach, are you in agreement with Josh that UCF should be the fourth team in?
To be honest with you, why the hell not? Why the hell not put them in? They've won 25 in a row. What more do they need to prove?
It's Josh.
Are they one of the four best teams? I don't know.
Are they one of the four best? Okay, so are they one of the four best teams, or are they one of the four most deserving teams? They are one of the four most deserving teams, and
that's what we've got to determine with this whole thing. Do we want best, or do we want most deserving?
It's because you don't.
It's been established. It's
best.
It's been established. It's the four that create the most money.
So because
That's all that it is.
Frankly, the 4 best teams are Alabama in order. Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and Ohio State.
Yes.
Those are the 4 best teams.
Yeah.
The 4 most deserving teams, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Central Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
And guess what? Oklahoma is not in either of those 2 categories.
Yeah, but Oklahoma didn't lose to Purdue.
True. They didn't. But Oklahoma did not demolish what was widely considered the best defense in the entire country to the tune of 62 points.
Yeah, does one game make up for a shaky season against a bad Big Ten?
I don't know. But I think that at this point in the season, Ohio State is as good as anyone in the country.
Yeah.
With the way that Dwayne Haskins is playing, I mean, you could say the same thing about Kyler Murray, but at least Ohio State's defense shows up occasionally. Oklahoma State's defense shows up once in a blue moon.
Yeah. I mean, this is why a 14 playoff is totally asinine.
It's completely inane. This is the most perfect year for an 18 playoff.
Every year is a perfect year for an 18.
I know, but I'm saying you have the 4 teams that are in, plus UCF, Ohio State, Washington, and Georgia, and you have an ideal playoff.
Yeah.
So, like, come at me, bro. Tell me that is not a better situation than what we have right here.
I'm with you.
If FCS can invite 24 teams in the playoff, into their playoffs, which is a real playoff and was fantastic this weekend, by the way. The football in the FCS playoffs this weekend was just flat out better than what we saw in most of the FBS games. Outside of this American Championship game, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun, and that UCF defense showed up in the second half, Josh.
Yeah, they've been showing up quite a bit. I mean, they're a complete team on both sides of the ball. Mackenzie Milton, I said it last time, he is a great quarterback on an all-round amazing team. It's still an amazing team even without him.
It is. Look at what Darryl Mack did. 6 total touchdowns.
Yeah, and I mean, he had a terrible start to the game. He had some fumbles, and he just settled down and then balled out. I mean, if it wasn't for him having some opening jitters, it would have just absolutely decimated Memphis.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was with Memphis and Darrell Henderson having himself another fantastic game, Coach. 210 yards, 3 touchdowns. I was in Memphis this weekend. And, I was talking to some fans. I was out there running a marathon, talking to some locals, talking to some Memphis fans, and they felt pretty good about their chances, and rightfully so. I mean, without Mackenzie Milton, a lot of guys, a lot of people thought that, this UCF team was, ripe for the picking, but, they showed up yet again, 25 in a row.
They did. And hats off to them. I mean, they did what they had to do to win. It's just, they've got a pretty good.
I'm sorry, 26 in a row. 26 in a row, I should say.
Yeah, 26. There you go. They've got a pretty good culture there. It's one of those where you can just plug and play and get guys involved. And, man, they just score in bunches. It doesn't matter who's in. I could probably be the quarterback, and we would score 48 points if I was in there.
I mean, you are great. You are a phenomenal game manager, Coach.
No, not at UCF. I'm not a game manager. Somewhere else, I'm a game manager.
Hey, man, listen, at UCF, though, you can throw the ball to Dredrick Nelson, Gabriel Davis,
At UCF, I am a game changer.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. I feel like you and Darryl Mack Jr. have a lot in common in your gameplay.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So, yeah, guys, I mean, we're going to move on, talk about a couple of the other conferences.
Oh, we're not going to.
Oh, okay, Josh, then I'm going to cede the floor to you.
Because I spit fire and brimstone with Central Florida. It's a heart argument. I seldom use my head, but I decided to crunch some numbers. I'm going to bring some head to this argument. So, I'm comparing
Josh,
American.
Hold on, Josh. Yeah. To go further along with what I said that you are a man who does, Josh, this is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
Oh, yeah. Totally. So I'm going to look at the down and out, terrible American Conference versus the big dominant Power 5 conference, ACC. So first of all, just head to head. Well, Central Florida blew out Pitt. Temple lost to Boston College, fair enough. But South Florida beat Georgia Tech. East Carolina, believe it or not, went 1-1. They beat Larry Fedora, but also lost to NC State. And dreadful UConn lost to Syracuse. But all told, 3-3. Now, the American played a bunch of Power 5 teams not in the ACC. Temple beat Maryland. Cincy beat UCLA. South Florida did a double dip. They beat Illinois. Houston went 1-1. They beat Arizona and Texas Tech. Missouri beat Memphis. Tulane lost 2 games, one to Wake Forest, one to Ohio State. And SMU also lost 2 games, one to TCU, one to Michigan. Navy's the only team that didn't face a Power 5 team this year. And Tulsa went 0-2 against Texas and Arkansas. That's 4-8 overall.
Well, so, I mean, didn't Navy lose to Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about teams in Power 5 conferences.
Touche. But, I mean, I think for the sake of argument, we have to consider Notre Dame a Power 5 team.
I know. But so 3-3 against the ACC, 4-8 against Power 5 non-ACC teams, and that's 7-11 overall. That's not an amazing winning percentage. But let's look at the ACC, shall we? Clemson 1-0 against Texas A&M. Syracuse, nada. Boston College lost to Purdue. Florida State lost to Florida. Wake Forest, nada. Louisville lost to Alabama. Pitt lost to Penn State. Georgia Tech lost to Georgia. Virginia lost to Indiana. Miami lost to LSU. Virginia Tech, nada. Duke, 2-0. North Carolina, 0-1. That's a rousing 3-8. Let's throw your Irish in, Matt, because you're so concerned about them. Well, the Irish went 5-0 against the ACC. That drops them to 3-13 against power conference teams. So that's a .231 win percentage. That's a whole hell of a lot lower than the Americans' 389. So right there, ACC hanging on, but the lovable American is dreadful. Let's look at the conference in terms of bowl teams. Yeah, ACC's got them. They had 11 bowl teams. That's well done. Congrats. American only had 7. Unfortunately, a boatload of those ACC teams were dreadful and went 7-5 or 6-6. As a result, the American 7 bowl-bound teams went 51-26. That's a 662 win percentage. Over in the ACC, 85-49. That's a 634 win percentage. Quality for the American, quantity for the ACC. And now just extracting Central Florida. I like to look at how many teams did you take on that are heading to a bowl game. I think that's a good way to just kind of look at strength of schedule, gets rid of FCS teams, gets rid of, what Connecticut, what Rutgers, what Louisville adds to teams' equations, things like that. Just looking at the best versus the best, kind of. So
or at least the best versus the competent, shall we say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So Central Florida, they took on 6 bowl teams, went 6-0. Clemson, they were better. They went 10-0. They faced 10 teams heading to bowl games. Oklahoma took on 8, went 7-1. Ohio State 8, 7-1. Notre Dame 8, 8-0. Washington 9, Georgia 10, Alabama 7, and their records were Washington 7-2, Georgia 8-2, and Bama 7-0. But as I alluded to, bowl teams isn't as good. Matt, you mentioned competent. So I decided to look at how many of those bowl teams went either 6-6 or 7-5 and just kind of snuck into crappy bowl games. Well, Central Florida had 3 of those bowl teams with 5 or more losses. So 3 out of 6. Oklahoma and Alabama were really, really good. Oklahoma, 3 of their 8, that's only 37.5%. Alabama 2 of their 7. That's an astounding 28.5%. Washington 4 of their 9, and Georgia 4 of their 10. Those are respectable numbers. Clemson, 6 of their 10 teams are going to really crappy bowl games. That's 60% of their competent wins were a player or two away from being under 500. Ohio State, 6 out of their 8, 75% of their quality wins are barely above the threshold. And Notre Dame, 5 of their 8, that's 62.5%. So UCF's 50% is better than 3 teams on that list, 2 of which made the playoffs. So I'm really struggling to see how Central Florida is barely even in the top 10. The Atlantic Coast Conference is, to pardon my French, dog shit this year. The American Conference, perception-wise, is supposed to be closer to the group of 5. But in many, many ways, it's as good as the ACC, if not better. And yet, Central Florida can run through that league twice and not make it in the playoffs. So how do you have a tournament where you can win almost 30 games in a row and not even sniff it? No other sport would do this. It makes absolutely no sense. I have not acknowledged on my blog the playoffs. I'd put it in quotation marks. On my blog, I have not acknowledged any of the recent national champions. It is worse than the BCS. It is worse than the poll system. It's all about money, and it is, quite frankly, ruining this sport in a lot of ways. I don't know, prior to this playoff, any time I ever skipped watching a Rose Bowl. And yet last year when it was a national semifinal, didn't watch a second of it. This year, not going to watch a second of this playoff. Don't give a shit. It's bogus.
Let's just, as a fun exercise, go through the 2 conferences, team by team, best to worst. Clemson, UCF, we know they're the best teams in each conference. Okay, second best team in the ACC. Are we in agreement that it is Syracuse?
Sure, technically it is.
Okay.
Syracuse didn't play a Power 5 conference team. They did play Notre Dame, lost to them.
Second best team in the American.
I would consider NC State better than Syracuse at this point.
Even though they lost to Syracuse.
Even though they lost to Syracuse, I think they would beat them 2 out of 3.
At a neutral site. Okay, fine. Either one. Those 2 teams versus Houston and Memphis, probably the second and third best teams in the American.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a split.
Yeah.
That feels about right. Next, after those 2, we've probably got Boston College and Pitt, Georgia Tech, Virginia, something like that.
They all are terrible.
South Florida, Cincinnati, and Temple.
South Florida fell apart, but South Florida beat Georgia Tech.
Exactly.
You have a data point.
This is my exact point.
Cincinnati won 10 games. Temple started out with 2 back-to-back losses to open the year, and yet won 8 games.
Finished 8-2, 7-1 in conference.
Yeah. Who wants to play Temple right now?
Not me. That's who. And the bottom part of the ACC is just riddled with calling it mediocrity is being overly generous.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I think East Carolina is better than Louisville. East Carolina is better than North Carolina. They face each other. East Carolina beat them. Connecticut is on their own island as being absolutely dreadful, as is Louisville.
Connecticut is historically, they're not just bad. They are
but if you
one of the worst teams that we have seen in our lives.
Yeah, but if you're going to throw out the American because of Connecticut, I got news for you. Rutgers has gone 0-9 in 2 of the last 3 seasons in the Big Ten.
I'm not trying to argue for Rutgers. Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah. Oregon State has had a lost decade of football. Every conference has bad teams. So, Connecticut was absolutely dreadful. If Connecticut played Rutgers, would I pick Connecticut? Yeah, probably.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either. There were at least a couple players on Rutgers I'd be interested in. I don't know if Connecticut has a single player that is worthy of any sort of accolades.
I don't know. I've watched the Big Ten all year, so.
I mean, I've watched UConn way too much this year.
I mean, Rutgers throws about 4 interceptions a game.
So, okay, well, we've talked about this ad nauseum now. We need to get quickly. There were 6 other title games that took place. Ohio State beat Northwestern. Washington beat Utah. Fresno State beat Boise State. Northern Illinois beat Buffalo. UAB beat Middle Tennessee. App State beat ULL. Coach, any of those games stand out to you? Anything interesting from those that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I was actually impressed with UAB coming in cold, wet day in Murfreesboro and beating Stockstill and the Blue Raiders. I was impressed with that. I was impressed again with App State. Well,
let's talk about the UAB game a little bit more because, Josh, this is – I don't want to say it's an underreported story, but this is pretty phenomenal. 2 years ago, they did not have a program, and they just won their conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best coaching jobs. It's a huge turnaround. It's a city and a program that have really rallied together, and it just gets back to some of the politics of the University of Alabama system, where the Board of Regents is all huge to one specific team from the state of Alabama, and really didn't want someone else. Yeah, didn't really want someone else playing in their playground, and shut down the program for essentially fraudulent reasons. And good for the Blazers.
Yeah, this is a giant middle finger to the Board of Regents in the state of Alabama, and good for them. I hate it was against the Blue Raiders, but one of my alma maters. But it's just a tremendous story with Bill Clark just resurrecting this program and getting them to a bowl game last year and now a conference title. It's outstanding.
It really is, and I could not be happier for those kids. Coach, you and I live in Middle Tennessee, so we obviously have a soft spot for MTSU, but this is a pretty fantastic story. Yeah,
I mean, and it's not like they beat some middle of the pack, really bad Conference USA team. I know the overall record wasn't great for MTSU at 8-5, but I mean, they played some pretty tough out-of-conference games, and they were 7-1 in their own conference. And you have Brent Stockstill, who's just breaking all kind of records for MTSU and
for his pops.
And for his pops, and they're really. I
think that's going to be interesting to see how long Rick Stockstill now sticks around in Murfreesboro after his son is now going to be graduating and leaving the program.
Yeah, that's always an interesting dynamic to see how long those guys stick around. But I think he'll be around for a little while. I think he truly loves it, and I think he always intended. I think he intends on being at MTSU as long as they'll have him. But for UAB to do this against such a solid opponent, excuse me, makes it even better because it's not like they were playing some tomato can that was just. The sacrificial lamb, kind of like what
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. So, this was actually a good, entertaining conference championship game, and I kind of found myself watching it in bigger chunks sometimes than the Big 12 championship that it was competing against on television. So, hats off to UAB. My cousin played soccer there. She was on the soccer team and part of I think they were Sunbelt at that time. They've been Coosa for forever now. She won a conference title there as a soccer player back in the mid 2000s. So hats off to the Blazers. I got a little soft spot for them as well.
Absolutely. And, Coach, we live, a hair over 30 minutes from there. So, we both know a lot of people who are affiliated with the university, and we want to see them do well. But this is just a really fantastic story for UAB. Mm-hmm. Another great story, Fresno State, second year under Jeff Tedford, Josh, at his alma mater. They went up to the Smurf turf and avenged their conference title loss from last year and have come away with the Mountain West crown.
Yeah, they avenged their loss from earlier in the season also, and that's why I picked Boise State. I was just kind of waiting for Fresno to get over the hump that is Albertson Stadium, and an interesting day in terms of the offensive performance. Boise State, they had a running back just go off.
Madison.
Yeah, Madison. He had 40 carries, 200 yards, but Brett Rippon no-showed. 15 of 31, 125 yards, a touchdown. It's honestly, when I'm teasing a little bit, but when we get to our accolades later in the week, I actually picked McMarion from Fresno to be my offensive player in the year. He won the conference. He out-dueled Rippon in the biggest game of the season. So hats off to him. He wasn't getting much help from his running game. And at the end of the day, this was a defensive struggle where one quarterback found a way to squeeze enough juice out of the fruit, and the other quarterback picked a bad day to have at the office. Yeah,
Coach, and it was quite the snowy affair. And, obviously both teams have to play in the snow, but it just felt, strangely enough, like Fresno State was, more adept in the snow than the Broncos were.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the Apple Cup.
Absolutely.
Where the team you thought would.
That's a really good comparison. I like that a lot.
Would be adverse to those type of conditions, and then it's the team that's it's the team that's more used to damp and rainy, and like just cold but rarely frigid. Goes to the team that probably as part of their off-season training goes skiing barefoot. They they're the ones that handled it the worst. Kind of like Washington State. They probably get that weather in July up there in the Palouse. And we know what the weather is in Seattle. It's always rainy. I feel like there's not a whole lot of. I don't ever feel like there's a lot of snow just because there's just constant rain, and it's either rain or freezing rain, and it's gloomy about 382 days of the year in Seattle. And so they handled it well. Washington State didn't. Fast forward, Fresno State, and that's just coaching. That's just being ready for any of the elements and being ready for anything really, and handling adversity. And hey, let's go get it. They got to play in this crap too, so let's go make the best of it. And they made more plays than Boise State. And Brett Rippon was, I don't know where the heck he was. He was, I was thinking he was going to be unanimous offensive player of the year selection, but I'm thinking about revoking that now and reevaluating that because of just how. Just he Houdini'd us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it also showed that Madison is a real key to that offense.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that he got fed the rock. What was it, 40 times, Josh?
Mm-hmm.
45, something like that. I felt like every single play in this game was just, was just freaking halfback dive.
Should have gotten 50.
They might have had a better chance of winning the game. So, well.
Hellcat.
Let's go now to the coaching carousel. Time for another.
I wanted to talk about one game.
Let me guess. Hold on. Let me guess. The MAC title game.
It is the MAC title.
Yeah. Well, actually, I should say because, we were all rooting for Buffalo here.
Oh, heartbreak.
Such heartbreak.
And what's Buffalo's nickname?
The Bulls.
No, the city name.
Oh, the nickname.
By the lake. No, that's Cleveland.
No, the nickname of the city of Buffalo is there are many actually. nicknames for them: the Bison City, the Flower City, the City of Good Neighbors, the Nickel City. Also,
the Nickel Wing City.
Also known as the City of No Illusions, the Queen City of the Lakes, and the City of Light.
All right. Well, heartbreak in the Nickel City. So
I like the Nickel City. I don't know why. I do like the Nickel City, though.
Yeah. So first quarter, Bulls march right down the field. They have like a 90-yard drive. Second quarter, oh, hey, look, like another 90-yard drive. They're up 13-0. Give up a score, fine. They respond with a 75-yard drive. They're up 19-7. Chasing points, ever a good sign, just as an FYI. Keep that in mind. So that's a missed point after and a missed 2-point conversion. That's 2 points. Pencil that in the back of your heads, gentlemen. Northern scored to make it 10-19, but a field goal, chip shot field goal before half puts the Bulls up 22-10. And then in the start of the third quarter, another long 75-yard drive puts Buffalo up 29-10. After that, Northern Illinois' defense, like, they read the Rosetta Stone on Buffalo or something because
what they did, they started to get a ton of pressure on Tyree Jackson.
Yeah, so they figured it out. They made the necessary adjustments, and they just inched back slowly and surely. They scored a touchdown to make it 29-17, and they scored it again to make it 24-29. Then with a minute left, the game winner, 30-29, 2-point conversion for Northern Illinois failed. Heartbreak, all those unanswered touchdowns to end the game. But also, look, Lance Leopold, you are a smart coach. Why are you doing the Kirk Ferentz
point chaser?
Second quarter 2-point conversion. You missed a point after. It happens. You might get one back. It is the MAC. They don't necessarily have the greatest kickers. You might get a special teams play and block it. You might have Northern get 2 field goals, and it doesn't really matter. You don't need to chase those points. I don't get it. It seems like any team that goes for a 2-point conversion before 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter feels like they always lose.
Coach, do you have any thoughts here?
Never chase points early.
Well, I mean,
and don't
just score
punt.
more than the other team.
Yeah, and don't fake punt. Just eliminate every single fake punt out of your. Just don't fake punt ever again. I'll be happy if I never ever see a fake punt ever again. I may rip them out of my playbook. Actually, I'm against punt fakes now.
You know where I stand, Coach. If you replace every fake punt with a flea flicker, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, do something. Just don't fake the punt when they're expecting it.
When they're expecting it,
and be dumbasses, and then still run it into the teeth of a fake or into the teeth of a defense that's expecting your fake.
A better or worse fake, Georgia's or the Indianapolis Colt?
Oh,
yes.
the classic where they hiked it directly to I forget who it was. Like, oh, it was so bad.
Yeah,
it was real bad.
It was so bad.
There was another one on Come On Man where they
Come on, man.
They had some weird, like, it wasn't a fake punt. It was just like kind of a trick play. They had some weird formation, and the defense just totally did not respect it at all. It was like a center, a quarterback, and then they had their entire offensive line split between two sides, like 6 yards off the ball. And they had 4 people around the center, and the quarterback was under center. So he took a snap from under center and got swarmed.
Of course he did. What else do you expect in that situation?
The money I would pay to see Kirby do that the very first snap of next year's opening day.
Is there room on either Iowa's bandwagon or Wisconsin's bandwagon? Because if that happens, I might come on.
No, I'm sorry. Brian Ferentz just spilled his drink all over the last seat on the bandwagon.
Graham Mertz is coming aboard Coach, you are
Wisconsin,
more than welcome.
Wisconsin, it is.
You are more than welcome to join us. He's enrolling early, and that is what is getting me through the next 2 months. Seriously, it is the only thing getting me through the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple of coaches who have more than just 2 months to get through now because they have retired from the coaching profession. We will start with Bill Snyder in the Little Apple. He has decided to say bye-bye again to the college football coaching profession after going 2-15, 117, and 1 at Kansas State. Josh, he's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. So I will leave it to you to bid sayonara.
Yeah, I mean,
if he stays retired this time.
I think he will.
We'll see him in 10 years. What are you talking about?
He's just going back into his coffin until then.
Well, he's much older than he was during his first retirement.
He's only 79.
He's battled.
Which was actually like 246.
He battled cancer, so well-earned retirement. You mentioned him already being in the Hall of Fame, but yeah, I mean, Bill Snyder was part of one of the all-time great coaching staffs. He was with Hayden Fry at North Texas, and then went to Iowa with him. He was an offensive coordinator and quarterback.
Only you can turn a Bill Snyder conversation into an Iowa conversation.
Well, no, I mean, he was part of one of the all-time greatest coaching staffs ever assembled. Barry Alvarez was on it. Bill Snyder was on it. Hayden Fry was the head coach. That's 3 Hall of Famers right there on one staff. Dan McCarney, the all-time leader in wins at Iowa State, was on that staff. So, I mean, Stoops was a graduate assistant. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. So, I mean, there's one hell of a staff. And Bill Snyder helped Iowa so much. And when he went to Kansas State, people were stunned. I mean, Kansas State was quite possibly worse than Kansas is right now. They had a 370 win percentage. They were 299 and 510 when he got there in 93 years. They were the most losses of any Division 1A team at the time. They'd only been to 1 bowl in program history. They hadn't won a conference title since the 30s. They had 4 winning seasons in the previous 44 years. And, I mean, like, they were terrible. They were 0-26-1 in their last 27 games. I don't know how you polish it in any way. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And he not just turned it around, he had the team an upset loss away in the Big 12 title game from playing for a national title. He won multiple conference titles. He won multiple division titles. He won 215 games there. He almost doubled their win total single-handedly. So, I mean, yeah. In fact,
he is without a doubt an all-time great.
Yeah. I mean, and just did it a different way. I mean, Kansas has a ton of junior colleges. He always got great junior college players. Had a system that is like what teams use nowadays for when they need a decisive edge, which was, think about some of the amazing backfield talent that went through there, especially really mobile quarterbacks like Al Roberson. Darren Sproles went there. He obviously wasn't a quarterback, but he was one hell of a backfield player. And you just wonder, he was so loyal.
He had a couple receivers too. Jordan Nelson. Yeah. I mean,
he was so loyal to Kansas State. You can't help but wonder, like, man, what if after turning Kansas State around, he had, say, in the late 90s when Alabama was struggling, what if he'd gone to Alabama after that 1998 season? What if he had, there's some interesting what ifs with him, but he just.
There are, but also, to be fair, like, the field's already named after him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and for good reason. and for very, very good reason. He is one of the few people we can genuinely call a living legend and not feel queasy about it.
No, and I know towards the end there was some weird stuff with him not wanting players to transfer, but you know what? Every freaking coach has done that.
He's old. Let him be.
Yeah, Bo Ryan got in a pissy fit over player transferring. It happens. The football coaches have egos. If the worst we can ever pin on Bill Snyder is, he didn't want a player to transfer. Well, shoot. Then what coach can you like?
Well, Coach, speaking of this Kansas State position and Bill Snyder, where does the Kansas State job now rank on a list of available jobs?
Well, as of right now, it's probably the best available because I think right now, other than Georgia Tech, I think it might be the only Power 5 job still out there, right? Am I missing?
Colorado has not officially hired Mel Tucker yet, even though all signs point to him being the next coach in Boulder.
And they don't always act it, but Maryland is technically a Power 5 school.
Maryland. They just need to take the interim tag off Matt Canada. Just quit screwing around. Just do it. Come on. I feel like they're just waiting and exhausting all options before they do it. I think they'll eventually do that. But I would say Georgia Tech is probably still your best one that's widely available, where they don't have somebody reported to take it, where it's still just wide open just because of everything you get with Georgia Tech, with the city of Atlanta and the recruiting area and the state. And, even if you get Georgia's leftovers, that's still pretty daggum good.
Did I just hear a daggum in there?
You heard daggum, man. Daggum. When you compare, so really what you're comparing Kansas State with is Maryland and Colorado. And technically Colorado, they're sort of taken. So, but I think Kansas State, with what Bill Snyder built there, I think he's turned that into a prestigious job. I think the only thing I would say is your recruiting area is not very good. I would say it's exponentially slimmer than Colorado's, or even slimmer than Maryland's.
Maryland's in comparison is gigantic.
Yeah, and I would say that you're going to have a harder time recruiting there. But of course, you can dip over to Oklahoma and dip down into Texas, and I think
Bill Snyder made a killing with kids from Texas for a long time.
And if you're going to succeed at Kansas State, you need to hire a guy that's just has some sort of recruiting reach in one of your big states.
So then, Coach, if you're the AD there, who are you targeting? Because I think that Seth Luttrell would be the first guy I would be going after.
Oh, hands down. He's already in that area. He's very well tapped into Texas. He's tapped in the Carolinas with his time at North Carolina. That guy's going to be a stud. And if you want to carry on the legacy, that's my first call. My next call, Neil Brown.
I think Neil Brown is an interesting case as well. I
think he would do well there.
As weird as it might sound, Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah.
Think about it. He's got connections in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
He knows Big 12 football.
Yeah.
You could do a lot worse than Mr. GQ.
I'm with you there. I'm with you. I'm getting less Seth Luttrell first, but I'm with you there. I can get behind that.
Okay. I'm glad to hear it, Josh. Who would you be interested as the head Wildcat?
I think that with the difficulties in recruiting that Kansas State has, and when Ron Prince took over, it quickly went downhill, and a lot of that was he just did not know how to recruit there. I think you need to have someone who's used to kind of finding the diamonds in the rough and is used to sort of, not that Kansas State would be building from scratch, but it is kind of a program where you need to have some of that experience. And I think Jim Leavitt would be phenomenal.
Ooh.
Hey, guess what? It was on that Iowa staff. He was also on Bill Snyder's staff for a while at Kansas State. So he's coached there.
Hire Brian Ferentz.
Oh, yeah, that's an even better fit. No, he coached in Manhattan already. He was the first ever coach of South Florida, built that program up, went 95-57 with South Florida, took them to a whole bunch of bowl games when they were in the Big East. He's a really, really good coach. And maybe things are still too hot from how the investigation went. But I feel like if he settled with the university, he got his money, so obviously the university felt that they had done something wrong in that as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have paid him. He's already gotten other jobs in college. We saw a similar situation for the Pirate. Well, he got another head coaching job. And, it was 9 years ago.
It's been a minute. It's definitely been a minute.
Yeah. So I think Jim Leavitt is as good a candidate as Mr. Luttrell.
I have another former Kansas State assistant that I would be very interested in seeing.
Does he wear a windbreaker?
He does wear a windbreaker.
Does he no longer look like the mascot of the school that he coaches?
I was going to say he does resemble the mascot of his most recent team. He does have a tattoo of the Iowa Hawkeyes on his left leg.
Yeah, he does. Huh?
Coach, any interest there in Mr. Brett Bielema?
No. No. Get out of here with that.
All right. Well, elsewhere we have.
I'll be a little nicer than that. I think Brett Bielema, what he did at Wisconsin speaks for himself. It went horribly off the rails at Arkansas. We all acknowledge that. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But what he did at Wisconsin is quite proven. And it wasn't all with Barry Alvarez's players, because by far his best run was 2010 to 2012, well after Barry Alvarez's players had left the program. I just don't see Kansas State as a good fit. I
feel like Kansas State is already sort of, I don't want to say anachronistic. That's not the quite proper word to use there, but they do already run a different style than the rest of the Big 12.
It's true. And I know that I said Kansas would have been where I thought Brett Bielema was going. That was just because of the athletic director. I think stylistically, Brett Bielema's style, if he gets down in a Big 12 game, he ain't coming back. So I'm just not sure his ground and pound style is well suited. I think an interesting league for him would be if he can get back into the Big Ten. I think his style would also, believe it or not, work in the ACC. We've already seen Cal kind of go that way.
It would work in the Pac-12. We've seen Stanford and Washington succeed with it.
Yeah. So, and Cal's turning around with using some of that stuff. I think, a certain program like Oregon State, if it's not working in a few years with their current coach, I think Colorado, if whatever happens, I know they have a guy 90% signed, it seems, but as we know from the Charlotte situation, don't count your chickens before they hatch. I think Bielema in the Pac-12 is an intriguing proposition.
Coach?
Just talking about Brett Bielema still?
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Why not? He's one of the more interesting characters still available.
Yes. So yeah, his style.
Okay. Well, Coach, let me pose it to you this:
there's nobody tough enough.
If you were in, what conference would you need to be an AD in order to feel like Brett Bielema would be a good hire?
If I was in the ACC, I would feel like it's a pretty good hire because over half of the conference is soft. So I feel good there.
Okay.
I feel good in the Pac-12 because we can look at Stanford and we can look at what Cal's starting to do and say, okay, yeah, we can. This can work. All right, this can work. Definitely not Kansas State. Definitely not anybody in the Big 12 because you're going to get left in the dust. I think. I thought it could work in the SEC, but obviously that didn't pan out. But maybe I don't know if it was more of him just being at Arkansas and what Petrino did to Arkansas and kind of I don't know what the heck happened there. That was weird. I think he could do well in the Big Ten.
I think he's proven he can do well in the Big Ten.
It's too bad he
I
can't.
think he would do well coming back to the Big Ten. Is my point.
It's too bad he can't follow Bobby Petrino again to Louisville.
I know. Maybe
that is too bad. Well, you know what? We had one other retirement. Turner Gill retired from Liberty. Frankly, I think he just got sick of Jerry Falwell Jr. That's we can get there another time. Louisville, though, let's talk about them. They've hired Appalachian State coach Scott Satterfield, a guy we've talked about a lot. That's probably about as good as they can do.
That's a Barry Bonds 500-foot home run for them. He's going to kill it up there, I think.
I'm scared if I'm the rest of the ACC. I mean, Josh, I know you were very surprised that he even left.
Welcome back to Louisville.
Yeah, I was stunned. You know, he's from state of North Carolina, played at App State, coached at App State. I thought if anyone was gonna pry him away from, quite frankly, winning 3 straight conference titles, I thought it'd have to be something truly special.
I thought it was going to be UNC.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd have to be a Chris Peterson of Washington situation where it's just a match made in heaven, and with just how god awful Louisville was, it being kind of the awkward stepchild in the ACC, and you know, I just
don't touch the coast. The state of Kentucky does not touch.
Yeah, I was quite frankly stunned. I thought Satterfield would just hang out in Boone, keep winning Sun Belt titles if North Carolina didn't call him this time, and he would just wait for
Mac Brown to retire.
Wait for Mac Brown to retire. Wait for maybe Dave Doran to either flame out or take a different job. Wait for Clawson to flame out or take another job. I thought he was going to be a North Carolina person for life. Mm-hmm. So hats off to Louisville. I was stunned when that news came.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Coach, like you were saying, like this is a grand slam.
It is. It really is. If you're looking so far,
is this the best hire of our coaching carousel so far this season, or is it Matt Wells to Texas Tech, which we haven't talked about?
Let's talk about Matt Wells to Texas Tech.
Let's talk about it because
we'll make a ruling. I think that's another 500-foot blast. I think Matt Wells is somebody that can definitely build on what Coach GQ has done. I think he fills the gaps that GQ didn't have, that he couldn't quite overcome to get the Red Raiders over the hump. I think he knows how to kind of be one of those underdog programs in a conference that is top heavy. When you speak in relative terms, obviously, at a place like Utah State where they hadn't always been great, and then all of a sudden, here we go, and he built that. And so I think they're going to lean on that a lot with him now in his current situation, and it's going to be. I think he's going to fit in great there. I think he's perfect for that conference. I think he might actually bring a little bit of defense.
Whoa. Don't get too crazy there, Coach.
I mean, if you hold them under 40, that's a shut.
I suppose that's the equivalent of a shutout in any other league. Yeah. Josh, it sounds like Utah State, though, is going back to the Gary Anderson well. It's not official yet, but all reports seem to be in that direction.
I mean,
I don't feel so great about that, but I'm obviously jaded as a Badger fan.
Well, all you Utah State fans, if you're listening, prayers.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers to you guys.
I mean, man, it went horribly wrong for Mark Whipple. It's going horribly wrong for Randy Edsall. It's really difficult to recreate that magic because you found success doing X, Y, and Z, but X, Y, and Z was from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago sometimes. Yeah. And stuff changes. I will say this about Matt Wells. I think it's a good hire. I'm not 100% going to give it a home run just yet because really struggled in the middle of his run. Inherited a good team, 2013, 9 wins, 2014, 10 wins. 2015, 16, 17, 15 wins over those 3 years. They turned it around this season. They exceeded expectations this season. He might be getting out at the top of his availability, cashing in.
And if so, good for him.
Season. Yeah, and he's run a program that's something that Coach GQ hadn't done prior to Texas Tech. So he's at least coming in with some experience that Kingsbury never had. But I wouldn't say that, like, Matt Wells is blowing me away. It's a nice hire. It's a hire I'm going to keep an eye on, but he could turn around and win 10 games next year, or he could turn around and lose 10 games.
It's very true. It's very true. But he does inherit a roster that definitely has some talent on it. And, I mean, Alan Bowman, I think, proved that he is good enough to play in that league for sure. We had a couple.
Here's a job I'm looking forward to. Rocky Mountain State. Jason Petrino left to pursue Division I opportunities.
Is that the son or the brother of a certain motorcycle enthusiast that we all know and don't love?
I have no idea. He just might be unfortunate schmuck that has the same last name. But it's an AI school in Montana. So if you guys are wondering, I know Josh can keep his eyes peeled for that.
Oh yeah, I got the Montana sports package on the dish. So.
There you go.
One other firing that was a little bit questionable, as far as I'm concerned. Terry Bowden was shown the door at Akron. Josh, they're going to your favorite bowl game this year. So, what do you make of this?
Akron's going to my favorite bowl game this year?
Aren't they going to the Bahamas Bowl?
They're 4-8, so no.
Oh, who is going to the Bahamas Bowl then?
It's FIU and Toledo.
Sorry, wrong MAC team in the state of Ohio.
But your question still has a little bit of merit. He won their
questions always have merit, Josh.
He won the school's first bowl game in a long time, maybe even the first in school history back in 2015. Won the division just last season. I'm just wondering, overall, 35-52, 10 games under 500. He certainly got Akron more competitive.
They got walloped this weekend by South Carolina.
Yeah, he got them on a little bit more competitive footing in the MAC, kind of stabilized them after the Rob Ianello era went 2-22.
Ooh.
So he definitely helped the turnaround, and he definitely set a foundation. But, I mean, outside of those 2 seasons I highlighted, all under 500 the rest of his time there. The ACC or the MAC is a conference where we see wild influxes, and outside of, frankly, Northern Illinois and Ohio, you really don't know what you're getting year to year. And for the defending division champion to go from 6-2 to 2-6 with quite a few returning pieces, it had to have stung the Zip administration.
Yeah, I think that, I don't want to say it was the last straw per se, but his tenure at Akron was, as you've mentioned, Josh, up and down. Coach, what kind of guy would you be after there if you were the AD?
At where? I kind of lost you guys.
At Akron.
Akron.
Oh, I mean, I would look for obviously a defensive minded guy there. Somebody that's just going to bring a tough, gritty type of brand. Your Ohio, your Rust Belt, that's just kind of what you need. I think. In order to win in the MAC, I think you need to be physical. And
yeah, I actually have. I have
Big Ten Junior, so I'm looking for somebody like Pat Fitzgerald, somebody like that.
I had a name.
Fine with me. Get him out of the league.
I had a name, Josh. If I'm Akron, if I can get him, Bo Pelini.
Ooh,
that's exactly.
He's already coaching in the state at Youngstown State. They didn't have as good a year this year as they have in the last few years, but still a tough-nosed coach who is going to bring that style of play that you want to Akron. That would be the first name that would be on my list. Now, obviously, I think there are going to be some people out there who disagree with that, but
yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, I mentioned Frank Solich having a reliable program there at Ohio, but that's atypical. Usually the MAC takes a flyer on an up-and-comer, and then they either totally fail and we never ever hear from them again, or
they move on to a better job in 2 to 4
years. Catch lightning in a bottle, and
your Daryl Hazel.
Yeah, so I mean, if you are Akron, Bo Pelini presents a lot of pros, but it's also, is that what we as a MAC program are going for? Is having kind of a retread, reliably good, but at the same time, Ohio hasn't won a MAC.
I mean, I don't know. That's why it's a question for people who are paid much more than I am. So we have two other hires. One of them is in the MAC, and one of them is the former MAC team. We'll start in the MAC. Central Michigan, Josh, has hired shark aficionado Jim McElwain. This was a little bit out of left field.
Yeah, other than I think it's really shown how far he has fallen, and he's 56 years old. That's even older than Pelini. It's kind of, I guess, Central Michigan is going that retread route, which will be interesting because I don't really remember McElwain excelling at any place he's been.
He was decent at Colorado State.
22-16, 14-10 with the Rams.
He didn't inherit that program when it was, in a bit of a lull.
True, but he parlayed a 10-win season into a big contract at Florida, and
he got paid.
He drove that thing into the ground. So
yeah, he got paid, drove it into the ground, faked death threats, and got himself fired.
There you go.
I mean, that's one way to do it.
Well done.
Elsewhere at UMass, they've hired Walt Bell, who has all of 2 sentences to his name on Wikipedia.
I know nothing about Walt Bell.
Yeah,
I don't have any reason to get excited or be upset with this one. It's a very meh.
I mean, he's the Florida State offensive coordinator. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator at Maryland. I mean, he played his ball as wide receiver at I believe MTSU coach.
Yeah, I mean he's probably good.
He's been around. He's been around. We know nothing about him. So
it's hard to get excited.
If I was grading this, I would give it an incomplete because I know less than nothing about him.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
I mean, yeah.
There's not much else to go on there.
Could be a home run, but we just don't know.
All right. Well,
I do want to say, I mean, Matt, I know you kind of just sort of dismissed the Turner Gill thing, but when someone abruptly retires like this, that to me is saying something. Either Gill was upset at Liberty, or
I wouldn't blame him if he was.
Or Liberty was somehow upset at Gill, or maybe Turner Gill has a move in mind, and I'm curious if
he's I believe 58 years old, which is not that old if you know all things considered here in the coaching ranks.
Well, here's the thing that I'm curious about.
Ooh.
His alma mater has a pretty intriguing coach right now. His alma mater's getting the gang back together.
Okay.
Turner Gill was a great quarterbacks coach from 92 to 2002. Coached a guy by the name of Eric Crouch.
Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Last time I checked, Nebraska has a little bit of a mobile quarterback in Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, he's okay.
I'm wondering if in a few weeks we don't see Turner Gill essentially get his same minor paycheck at Liberty, this time from the University of Lincoln, Nebraska, to just tutor Adrian Martinez.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him.
Because I was flabbergasted. I did not peg a Turner Gill retirement coming across the wire.
Yeah, I don't. Retiring and then taking another gig, as in whether he's going to be an OC, quarterbacks coach, whatever.
He won't be an OC because Frost brought his OC from Central Florida. That ain't changing.
Yeah,
but I'm saying Gill becomes a one-on-one tutor for Adrian Martinez, essentially.
I mean, that would be a coup for Nebraska.
Yeah.
But, okay.
You can retire then take another job. I mean, look at Nick Saban. Look at Petrino. The two guys quit on NFL teams after saying they weren't going to.
But did they retire or did they just take other gigs?
Petrino
just quit and then took a gig.
He just dipped out and then took Louisville and he left a note on their stool.
Yeah, it was sure as heck shadier than Turner Gill.
Yeah, stool in the bodily function meaning of the word. Okay, time for a pop quiz, gentlemen.
Ooh.
So I mentioned earlier on the discrepancies of plays versus plays that they were leading for in the Alabama-Georgia games this year and last. And this weekend, Georgia managed 79 offensive plays, still came up short. But there are 22 teams this year who averaged at least 75 offensive plays per game. So your job is to name those 22 teams. Josh, what is your first guess?
How many teams are in the Big 12?
I mean, when it comes to high-speed offense, I immediately think of Oklahoma this year.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma, Josh, sorry, but they averaged a total of 66 plays per game.
I'm screwed.
That is your first strike. Coach.
West Virginia.
West Virginia averaged a total of 72.364 plays per game, just shy. One strike for each of you, Josh.
Let's go with the Pirate.
The Pirate up there at Washington State University averaged a total of 74.33 plays per game, just short. Josh, that is your second strike. Coach.
Oh, okay.
I hope we get skunked. I hope we get 6 straight
I'm not going to get skunked on this one. Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State, number 1 in the country this year. Almost 78 plays per game.
Man. Maybe Texas Tech, but they had so many injuries and stuff. I am going to go with, even though they were a really crappy team, they like to have a lot of high-speed plays. So I'm going to go with the Wildcats of Arizona.
Arizona averaged 73.4 plays per game, Josh. You have struck out, Coach. Any other teams that come?
What did I do? Pick how many teams did you say there were?
22.
What did I do? Pick 23, 24, and 25?
Arizona was ranked 38th, and I believe that was your best pick.
Jesus. What about Washington State?
Washington.
They were at like 74.78.
Washington State was at 74.33. Sorry, they were 27th.
What were they before the Apple Cup?
Okay. I don't know before the Apple Cup. I can't do that. I'm doing this in my own Excel spreadsheets. So do with that what you will.
I need a recount. I didn't realize we were counting games that featured snow.
This is a weather-independent test. Coach, you've already won. Do you have any other teams?
I'm going to say Clemson.
Clemson averaged 72 plays per game, good for 51st in the country.
Okay, so for my
Rutgers had 75 plays on the season.
Ohio State.
Ohio State, they're number 3 in the country. They averaged almost 82 a game.
UCF.
Central Florida averaged 77 plays per game. They were 10th in the country.
Memphis
averaged 73 plays per game.
Son of a bitch. Ole Miss is another one I thought about.
Ole Miss averaged 72 plays per game. They were 55th in the country. At 71 points.
Wake Forest, Hawaii, Oregon.
Yeah, Syracuse is a good call. They were number 2. They were 82.3 per game. Number 1, surprisingly enough, gentlemen, East Carolina.
Yeah.
East Carolina, 83 plays per game. Other teams you missed: Wake Forest,
Scotty Montgomery, gone.
Houston, Liberty, Florida Atlantic, Missouri, Ball State, Texas A&M, Oregon State, Kent State, North Carolina State, Indiana, Baylor, Cincinnati, Old Dominion, Boise State, and the most surprising team on this list, Northwestern.
And Rutgers.
All right, gents, I think that's going to do it for tonight. We had the game between Stanford and Cal. Stanford won. Josh,
I only care if the band is on the field.
Iowa State and Drake played a game, so I'm gonna let that be your and finally tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know why the spread was like 42 points. That was absolutely bonkers when I saw that on Yahoo Pick'em. The fact is, Drake is a well-run program. They usually have winning records, but they're in the Pioneer Football Conference, so they don't give scholarships. Because they don't give scholarships, they are perceived as being like totally beneath anyone to ever play. So Iowa and Iowa State never ever play them. They only ever face Northern Iowa if they're going to take on an FCS school. And so it was Drake's Super Bowl. They came in with a huge chip on their shoulder. Iowa State came in totally disinterested. That always leads to an interesting game. Iowa State survived, but hats off to the Drake. That was awesome. And please, at some point in April, go to the Drake Relays. It is America's athletic classic for a reason. Them and the Penn Relays have a very friendly rivalry for who is the best track and field event. I'm partial to the Drake Relays for obvious reasons, being an Iowa homer. Matt's partial to the Penn Relays, being a snotty East Coaster.
Yep.
For obvious reasons. But it's all good fun. So that's the Drake minute on the show. And also, Heisman finalists announced. Could we have a more boring presentation for three dudes who cares about any of them? And I certainly won't be watching Joe Tessitore screaming at me.
We should just invite Jake Fromm just so I can watch. I probably still wouldn't watch.
Yeah, we will do our own award show later this week on a
That one's going to be exciting.
Because
that one matters.
That's the one that really matters to all of our listeners out there. Coach, any final words from you tonight?
Well, I got some good ball plays. Yeah, this is a wild show.
This was a wild show.
Did we mention East Carolina stealing Mike Houston?
We did not.
I think that would require us caring about the Purple Pirates. We've been stung by them. That relationship sailed. East Carolina's dead to us.
Mm-hmm.
Our new lovable team is
not Liberty.
No.
I think it's UAB.
No. Yeah.
I think it's the Blazers.
No, if it's going to be a liberal team, it has to be a team that's bad. So it has to be a team.
No. We like the Purple Pirates when they were winning some games.
We did. But I don't feel like we can go with them right now. I feel like it might have to be the team that Mike Houston spurned in Charlotte.
Ooh. No, because their name is really dumb. They're the 49ers. They clearly have a logo that's a guy holding a pickaxe, and they claim it has nothing to do with the gold rush of 1849, which checks notes. That was in California.
It was in California. It was.
Yeah.
All right, gents. Well, I think that is going to do it for us tonight. So on behalf of our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton, and our intrepid blogger from Big Ten Accounting, Josh Cook, this is the professor saying so long and see you next time on the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on a fucking deep dive about Charlotte. I mean, they call themselves the 49ers.
I'm sure they have some reason for it.
They do. It's really stupid. And I've read it before. Charlotte 49ers. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Name. The athletic department officially changed its name simply to Charlotte in 2000. Okay.
From UNC Charlotte, I believe.
Yeah, it was UNC Charlotte, blah, blah, blah. Nickname. The 49ers derives from the fact the university's predecessor, Charlotte Center of the University of North Carolina, CCUNC, established in 1946, was saved from being shut down by the state in 1949. When the Charlotte Center became Charlotte College due to the 49er spirit that it embodied the university, referring to the settlers that endured much hardship traveling across the United States to seek their fortune in the gold rush, students chose the 49ers. But like, what? Because your university didn't get shut down? You're like piggybacking off of the freaking gold rush? And you have like a pickaxe in your hand? Give me a break. It's absolutely stupid. You should just go as the Charlotte Hornets and wear some purple and teal, baby.
Hell yeah.
That is the greatest color combination of all time.
Double down.
Yeah.